Welcome to Newswire Daily. It's Friday, September 26th, 2025. Here are the three biggest stories you need to know today. Ukraine steps up strikes on Russian energy assets as Moscow moves to curb diesel exports. Next, Russia accuses NATO and the European Union of waging a real war through support to Kyiv. Finally, the White House unveils a 100% tariff on imported branded pharmaceuticals starting next week. The first news takes us to the front lines, where Ukraine is intensifying its attack on Russia's vital energy source. Ukraine has stepped up long-range drone operations against Russia's energy infrastructure, attacking refineries, export terminals, and pipelines in recent weeks. In response, Moscow is restricting diesel exports and expanding gasoline quotas to stabilize domestic supplies. These attacks have pressured output at key facilities and increased volatility in refined fuel markets. Russia's partial diesel export ban and gasoline restrictions, which are considered temporary until the end of 2025, are aimed at preventing domestic shortages while protecting retail prices. The ripple effects are global. European traders are recalibrating their winter supply routes, and standard cracks have widened as risk premiums return to energy logistics. The battlefield is now as economic as it is military. By pressuring Russian fuel flows, Kyiv appears to be seeking to raise costs and complicate logistics far from the front lines. But prolonged export restrictions could also cause inflation abroad, testing consumer acceptance and political resolve. How should Europe hedge against a winter of uncertain diesel flows? Can alternative suppliers meaningfully fill the gap without further price increases? The next news comes from New York, where Russia sharpened its rhetoric at the United Nations. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov escalated rhetoric, alleging that NATO and the European Union are effectively waging a real war against Russia through military, financial, and training support to Ukraine, claims Western officials dismissed as propaganda. The charged language lands as allied backing for Kyiv deepens, from air defense stocks to industrial ramp-ups. Diplomats warn such framing raises risks of miscalculation around airspace incidents and cross-border drone shootdowns, even as channels for de-escalation remain thin. The narrative also serves a domestic audience in Moscow, shoring up a siege mentality while deflecting blame for the war's costs. Words can redraw red lines. Branding Western aid as direct belligerence may justify harsher responses or new countermeasures. Will this sharpened message harden positions before winter, or push fence-sitting states to press harder for talks? What practical steps could reduce escalation risks without diluting support for Ukraine? And finally, we turn to Washington, where the White House has unveiled a major trade measure. The White House says the United States will impose a 100% tariff on imports of branded or patented pharmaceuticals starting October 1st, positioning the move as a push to reshore drug manufacturing and strengthen supply chains, an announcement already rattling allies with major pharma exports to the U.S. Industry groups and health policy analysts warn the tariff could raise costs for patients and complicate approvals and sourcing in the short term. U.S. officials argue waivers and narrow carve-outs are possible where firms are actively building domestic capacity. Trade partners are weighing responses amid concerns about price spikes and regulatory friction across borders. The measure may accelerate onshoring and bargaining leverage, but at the risk of a fresh trade round that complicates access to critical medicines. Should governments prioritize strategic resilience, even if it lifts near-term prices? Could targeted incentives deliver the same security with fewer downstream shocks? Those were today's top headlines from Newswire Daily. Subscribe and join us tomorrow for more global updates.